Hi there, it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. This is the card that we are going to be creating today using kind of yellows, blacks and white. I have a 110 pound Nina Solar white card base here, and to this card base we're going to add some things. First of all, from this yellow cardstock I'm going to cut out the largest banner from this banner die set, and it's going to be in the yellow. You can see that it doesn't quite reach the end of the die, but that's okay. This next one, I'm going to cut this black and white pattern paper using the next size down, so the second largest banner die. And then with this Cuttlebug mosaic patterned embossing folder, I am going to emboss a piece of 80 pound Nina Solar white. So I'm going to put my embossing mat down for my Cuttlebug, and then the embossing folder, and then a plate on top, and it embossed beautifully. You can definitely use both sides to this because obviously it has like the raised sides and the dented side, and so you can choose which one you might like to use on your project. Next up, I have this black piece of cardstock here. I will explain later, it'll all make sense as to why there is already some die cuts out of the middle of it. I did quite a bit of the die cutting before this video, just because there was so much die cutting involved and I already knew roughly what I was going to need. So yeah, I just to save time really. So I've adhered that down with some liquid glue, and I just trimmed it up so that it had a 1/8 of a border around the outside. And now I'm going to trim up the embossed piece so that it gives the same border around the outside as well. And that way it'll cover up those die cuts from the middle and nobody will know that it's there. So now I kind of need to move on to the focal part of my card, and for that I'm going to use this stamp set, and you can see here I'm going to use these two smaller flowers here, and I am going to color these and cut them out to help create that focal point. I'm going to stamp them on some Bristol Smooth paper cardstock, and I'm going to stamp them using some VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and I'm using this ink so that I can emboss them with some clear embossing powder. This way it just makes it kind of a lot easier for colouring. The colour will nicely stay within the lines, and it kind of eliminates one thing for me to worry about when I am colouring. So then I'm going to use my heat gun to heat the embossing powder or melt it, and I always quite like watching it melt. But anyway, next up I'm going to colour using my zigs, and this was a little test flower, and to start with I used the lightest and darkest kind of yellow that I had, but I found that it didn't really create enough depth. It didn't create the right tone of yellow that I needed. So I actually end up going in with a little bit of orange right and close to the center of the flower, and then using my lightest yellow, I color the outside of the petals first, just so as not to contaminate any color, and then slowly pull that orange back up. So you can see here I'm using an orange, and then I'll just color around the outside of the petals without touching any orange at all. Then I will grab some of the orange and pull it back up. And when I found that it got a little too orange for my liking, I just swipe some off on the side to clean off the bristles of the real brush markers. Now I don't want it to appear orange at all. I definitely just wanted yellow. I don't want orange to be in this card. So I was just holding up my little piece of yellow cardstock to make sure that I was getting the right color of yellow. And it looks pretty good to me. I'm not going to do all of these flowers. I always stamp more than I need because I usually muck one up. And I was able to test out the colors on one as well, so that's good. I'm going to use the coordinating dies to these flowers. The flower stamps and coordinating dies are all from AliExpress, as are the banner dies, and I will try and link those down below if you are interested. So these have come out really nicely. They die cut beautifully, and now I'm going to move on to these little delicate leaves, which this is where the black was cut from in the layer of black that I had earlier. And so the leaves are from AliExpress, and now I have these layering kind of frames here, and I used two of them with the black and the white. The frames are from AliExpress also, as is this stamp set, which I'm going to use the Thinking of You sentiment from this one. And I will stamp this again in the same VersaFine Onyx Black ink just for nice continuity and because this is a nice dark crisp black ink. If I have forgotten to list something in the description box down below, you can just gently kindly let me know, and I will do my best to source it and put a link there for you in case you're interested. So I am just putting the card kind of all together, seeing how it's going to go, and making sure I have all the pieces I need. So I'm going to start off by putting these, using these little foam squares. These are from AliExpress as well. And I'm going to pop up that top layer of the sentiment onto the black layer, just gives it a little bit more dimension. And then I am going to adhere down this banner. I am using some double-sided tape, which is from Ali as well, and you could definitely use liquid glue here. I just have kind of everything sitting on my desk. Often there is no rhyme or reason as to why I reach for one over the other. Sometimes there is, but quite often there isn't. It's really just what's handy to me. So anyway, I'm going to use double-sided tape to layer up these, and you can see that they are a little bit long at the top, as this one is too, but that's no problem. I will just cut them off with scissors anyway. Then again here, using liquid glue, as I said, no rhyme or reason. Although liquid glue does give you a little bit of wiggle time, that is definitely a big plus. So I've put a little foam square on the back of each of my flowers, and I'm kind of going to arrange them up the side. I've got two big ones and two little ones, and then with this final little one here, I'm actually going to put a squirt of liquid glue there as well and kind of stick that leaf into it and then adhere it all down with the little flower and the foam dot right on top of it all. Now all I have to do is adhere the very last little sprig of leaves, and just using a little bit of liquid glue on all of the backs of the leaves, and then hold it down so it'll sit there nicely. This was kind of my version of some layering cards that I have seen. I'm not good at layering up lots and lots of things, so this was my attempt, which somewhat worked out. But anyway, I really like how it turned out. I hope you do too, and I hope you can give it a go. I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.